Alright, what I have here is a 2010 Cadillac SRX with about 107,000 miles on it. And it is exhibiting a knocking noise when turning left and right. And I have diagnosed it down to the stabilizer bar bushings up in here, and it's a ways up in there. And they're difficult to get to replace. You see it right there. I have a video of it in action. Thing we're going to end up having to do is take the inlinks right here off of the strut so we can lower the cradle down some, and then also we have to undo the intermediate steering shaft from the inside. Before you disconnect the stabilizer inlinks, always shoot them with some sort of penetrant. I got WD-40 right here. It'll help loosen those up. I'll go do the same thing to the other side, and then we'll get to wrenching them off. They take an 18mm wrench on the outside and a 6mm Allen on the actual stud, and you can wrench them off pretty easily. Next up is going to be the intermediate steering shaft, and on these SRXs that disconnects from the inside of the car. This SRX is extremely fun because you can't even see the bolt at first until you take off this little panel right here. It's a panel popper tool like this. Pull the pin out. Now it's extremely important whenever we remove the intermediate steering shaft on a vehicle that we do not let the steering wheel rotate. If you let the steering wheel rotate, you can damage the clock spring for the airbag. There we should be able to see the bolt that holds that on. It's going to be a 13mm, I believe. When you have the steering wheel straight ahead and the wheels straight ahead, that should have that bolt straight on for you. And you can slide the shaft off of there. Kind of up and then slide it over. And that's part of the steering gear, and that's going to drop out through that little hole right there when we lower our cradle. So now it's disconnected and it should drop down. Okay, now we can see where the steering gear comes up through the hole in the floor. And you can see the steering shaft where I have it disconnected. So we should be able to drop the cradle. Okay, next I have positioned a floor jack under the back side of the cradle, right under where the rear transmission mount is, so we can support the back of the cradle. And we're going to disconnect this bolt, and this bolt to remove the lower part, or the back part of the cradle. There's also the same thing on the other side. These are 18mm and these are 21mm. Once we remove those, then we're free to let the jack down a little bit, and it should lower the cradle enough to where we can access the bolts to remove the stabilizer bushings. a bit of persuasion. Okay, just leave that hang there. Now we can lower the cradle down a little bit, and hopefully we can get to those inlinks. As you can see, I've got a socket wedged in between the cradle right here to kind of hold it down so I can get enough clearance to get my ratchet at the 10mm socket. And that should be able to break loose. Just enough clearance to get these things loose. Alright, this here is the Ingersoll Rand Hammerhead 3/8 impact. It's kind of like a rear ratchet, but it hits instead of just torquing your hand to the side, which works great in situations like this. Alright, as you can see, it is now loose. I just have to pry off the bracket. And then the bushing can come out. Pay attention to which way it comes out. See, the opening is towards the front. And our new bushing should go in the exact same way. Got it. Alright, as you can see, I have the bushing on there with the new bolts, or not new bolts, but the same bolts. The new bushing with the strap down there. And all I need to do is tighten them, make sure they tighten down evenly, and make sure that the bushing goes around the stabilizer bar evenly to where the opening closes so it holds the bar tight. So we don't get that clunk. That's what's going to get rid of that clunk for us. Alright, now let's just repeat that on the other side for the other one. Alright, it looks like on this side, I'm going to get away with a wrench right here. Break it loose. Well, not absolutely necessary. That hammerhead really comes in handy. Place the bracket on the top of the bushing. There we go, like so. Install the bolts, get them started so everything gets lined up. Alright, stabilizer inlinks need to go back on. Got it. Let's go to the other side. This is where lubing them up before you ever take them off really helps out. Bingo. All I got left to do is put the wheels on and hook up the intermediate shaft on the inside. Okay, when you hook this intermediate shaft up here, make sure this hole right here lines up with the indentation on the inside of the shaft right there. So when you stick the bolt in, it goes all the way in nice and easy. Make sure we get the boot down. And the push pin. Carpet goes back up. And we are finished. Alright, here's a couple tools that actually make life a lot easier on a job like this. So these ratcheting box end wrenches make it real easy to get into tight spots. This one right here is a gear wrench. This one is a gear wrench, 10 millimeters, and it has the flex head on it, which makes it a lot easier to get back in there to get those brackets off, the bolts on the brackets. Also, having swivel sockets, this is also 10 millimeter, and a little extension goes a long way. Also, having a flex head ratchet makes it easy to get into a lot of the tight spots. And this one right here is about 9 inches long, and makes life a lot easier to get in there and get some good leverage on there. Having the hammerhead air ratchet, or actually it's an air impact, not a ratchet. Having the hammerhead air impact here makes life a lot easier because it actually hits like an impact, yet so it doesn't torque your hand like if you're using an air ratchet whenever it gets tight and everything. Makes life a lot easier. And then if you have a swivel on the end of it, it makes life a lot easier getting in there versus having just a straight fitting on there, so you're fighting the hose, versus now you can pivot it and everything, and it works a lot easier. So these are things that make life a lot easier, and you can definitely get the job done without them, but it definitely helps to have good tools.